The studio lights blazed down like interrogation lamps, casting harsh shadows across the sleek set of The Osbourne Files, Sharon Osbourne's revamped talk show that promised unfiltered truths from celebrity guests. Mark Wahlberg stepped onto the stage with his trademark swagger, flashing a grin at the live audience as applause erupted. He was there to promote his latest action flick, a gritty biopic about redemption. But as he settled into the plush armchair opposite Sharon, her eyes, sharp, unyielding, locked onto his. "Mark," she said with that signature British bite, "we're going to talk about the real you tonight. The one Hollywood loves to forget." The audience hushed. No one knew this interview would unravel into a national scandal, leaving viewers questioning if forgiveness was just another script. Mark had arrived at the Los Angeles studio that afternoon, the October sun dipping low and casting long shadows over the palm-lined lot. He was 54 now, a far cry from the troubled kid from Boston's Dorchester neighborhood. His driver had dropped him off at the back entrance, where a production assistant with a clipboard and a nervous smile ushered him inside. The air smelled of fresh coffee and stale makeup, the kind that clung to everything in these places. Mark adjusted his crisp button-down shirt, feeling the faint buzz of his phone in his pocket, texts from his wife, Rhea, reminding him to keep it light. He'd done hundreds of these interviews. Plug the movie, share a funny anecdote about training for the role, flash the charm. Easy. But something felt off from the start. The green room was quieter than usual, no bustling crew or complimentary snacks laid out like a buffet. Just a lone bottle of water on a side table, sweating condensation onto the wood. Mark paced, glancing at the mirror. His reflection showed the lines around his eyes, the subtle scars from a life lived hard. He thought back to his morning routine, waking up at 4 a.m. for his ritual workout, praying in his home chapel, kissing his kids goodbye. Family man, philanthropist, box office king. That's who he was now. The past? Buried deep, pardoned by time and success. Or so he believed. Sharon Osbourne, at 73, was a force of nature. Her show had relaunched 6 months earlier on a streaming platform, billing itself as the raw side of fame. She'd built a career on bluntness, surviving Ozzy's chaos, battling cancer, judging talent shows with unapologetic candor. But lately, she'd pivoted to deeper waters, exposing the industry's hypocrisies. Her producers had pitched Mark as the perfect guest, a reformed bad boy whose story screamed inspiration. Sharon had other ideas. She'd done her homework, digging into old police reports, victim statements from the 80s. "This one's going to sting," she'd told her team in the pre-show huddle, her voice laced with that mix of mischief and moral fire. As the intro music faded and the cameras rolled, Sharon leaned in, her red lipstick a stark contrast against her pale skin. "Mark, darling, you've come so far. From Marky Mark to Mark Wahlberg, Oscar nominee. But let's talk about where it all started. Boston, 1988. You were 16, right? Attacked 2 Vietnamese men. One lost an eye. Racial slurs thrown around like confetti. The audience gasped, a ripple of unease spreading through the rows. Mark's smile faltered, just for a second. He shifted in his seat, the leather creaking under him. Sharon, that was a lifetime ago. I was a kid, messed up on drugs, in a rough neighborhood. I've apologized, served my time, 42 days in jail. I've changed." She wasn't letting go. Changed? Or just rebranded? Sharon's tone was casual, almost playful, but her eyes drilled in. The conflict ignited there, in that moment, a clash not just between host and guest, but between past sins and present glory. Mark felt a knot tighten in his gut. This wasn't promotion, this was an ambush. In his mind, flashes of that night resurfaced, the anger, the alcohol-fueled rage, the sick thud of fists on flesh. He'd buried it, funneled it into his drive for success. But here, under the lights, it clawed back. The audience included a mix, fans in Wahlberg tees, skeptics with crossed arms. And a few activists who'd slipped in, whispering about accountability. One, a young Vietnamese-American woman named Lan, sat in the third row, her phone ready to record. She'd seen the promos and bought a ticket, driven by stories from her community. Backstage, Mark's publicist paced furiously, texting the producers, this wasn't the deal. But the show rolled on, the tension building like a storm. Sharon pressed further, her voice steady. You petitioned for a pardon in 2014, Mark. Wanted to wipe the slate clean so you can own a restaurant or something. But the victims? One said he forgave you, the other, well, he couldn't forget. How do you square that with your faith? You're a devout Catholic now, right? Building churches, talking redemption. Mark's jaw clenched, his hands gripping the armrests. Internally, he battled, defend? Deflect? Walk off? Look, Sharon, I've spent millions on charity. My foundation helps at-risk youth. I've met with community leaders, apologized publicly. What more do you want? The narcosis of nap tension ramped up. Sharon pulled out a tablet, swiping to an old article. Here's a quote from 1986. You were 15, assaulted a group of black schoolkids on a field trip. Rocks, slurs. Kill the N-words, witnesses said. The studio fell into a hush, the only sound the faint hum of the air conditioning. Mark's face flushed, a vein pulsing in his temple. That's not. I was young, stupid. The streets were divided Irish, black, Asian. It was survival. But his voice cracked, betraying the facade. The audience murmured, some nodded sympathetically, others shook their heads. Lon in the crowd felt her heart race. This was the confrontation her elders had whispered about. A commercial break hit, but the cameras kept rolling for the uncut stream. Sharon didn't back down. Mark, love, Hollywood loves a comeback story. But is it real if the pain lingers for others? He leaned forward, eyes narrowing. You think you're the judge here? You've got your own skeletons, firing people on your shows, controversial rants. Pot calling the kettle? The jab landed, Sharon's smile tightened. This was interpersonal warfare now, two titans clashing egos. Backstage, Ozzy watched on a monitor, chuckling hoarsely. That's my girl. As the show resumed, the waves of tension crested. Sharon introduced a surprise, a pre-recorded video from Johnny Trin, one of the 1988 victims. On screen, the man, now in his 60s, spoke calmly. Mark said sorry years ago. I forgave him. But forgiveness doesn't erase scars. The audience applauded softly, but Mark's expression shifted, relief mixed with something deeper, guilt perhaps. Then Sharon twisted the knife. But what about Hoa Tran? The other victim. He passed away in 2020, never got that personal apology. His family says you never reached out. Mark's breath caught. Internally, he replayed his life, the modeling gigs, the music, the movies. All built on reinvention. But had he truly atoned? Doubt seeped in, making him question everything. Was he the hero of his own narrative, or just a lucky thug who'd escaped consequences? The audience sensed it, the air thick with anticipation. A fan yelled, "We love you, Mark." Another booed. Sharon paused, letting the chaos simmer. See, this is the point. Society forgives stars like you, white, male, famous. But what if you were black? Or poor? Would you be here promoting films? The social undercurrent hit hard, exposing the systemic bias. Mark's mind raced. He'd mentored kids from similar backgrounds, but was it enough? The escalation continued, with micro details amplifying the drama. Mark's foot tapped incessantly, a tell from his boxing days. Sharon's rings clinked against her mug as she sipped water, each sound echoing in the charged silence. A crew member adjusted a light, casting a flicker that made Mark blink, disoriented. Then, a pivot, Sharon shared her own vulnerability. I've messed up too, said things I regret on TV. But I own it. Do you? Mark hesitated, the pause stretching like elastic. The climax erupted at the 45-minute mark. Sharon asked point-blank, if you could go back, would you change it? Or was that violence what made you? Mark stood abruptly. The mic pack tugging at his shirt. This isn't an interview, it's a trial. His voice boomed, raw emotion spilling out, anger, shame, defiance. Tears welled, unexpected even to him. The audience froze. This was the explosion, the crack in the armor. Yes, I regret it. Every day. But I can't undo it. I've tried to make amends, quietly, without cameras. He paced the stage, breathing heavy, the studio silent as a tomb. Time seemed to stop, no one moved, the weight of his words hanging. Sharon watched, her expression softening just a fraction. This was the moment of truth, a moral dilemma laid bare. Walk off and confirm the critics? Stay and bare his soul? Mark chose the latter, slumping back into the chair. I was a monster back then. Racist, violent. But I'm not that kid anymore. Or am I? The admission hung, a plot twist flipping the script. The antagonist wasn't just Sharon, it was Mark's own conscience. As the show wound down, resolution came incomplete. Sharon extended a hand. Thank you for staying. That's bravery. The audience clapped uneasily, divided. Mark nodded, exhausted. Backstage, his publicist whisked him away, but the damage or healing was done. The episode aired live, trending instantly, #Wahlberg confession. Viewers debated online, was it genuine remorse or damage control? Lon, the audience member, posted her video, sparking forums on racial justice in Hollywood. In the quiet of his car ride home, Mark stared out at the city lights blurring past. The aftertaste lingered, relief from unburdening, but a gnawing question. Had he truly changed, or was fame just a better mask? As the world dissected his breakdown, one thing was clear: forgiveness wasn't a pardon, it was a lifelong sentence. And in the end, who among us hasn't hidden from our own shadows? What if the real scandal isn't the past, but how easily we let stars rewrite it?